What's going on, guys? Bergs and Longy here from The Casual Athlete, and today we are going to be going through every team's biggest question to answer for the 2024 season. Longy, mate, I'm sure you've been watching some games over the previous couple of weekends. How are you finding the preseason?
Mate, I was loving the preseason until Parramatta ran out and got belted by a team of 14-year-olds wearing Canberra jerseys. Yeah, that was a tough game to watch. But look, we've seen the emergence of some young guns. There's plenty of fantasy prospects that are coming up. That teamless Tuesday yesterday, that was rough. But I'm keen to jump into this video.
Yeah, definitely. Just a reminder, guys, before we get into the list, please make sure that you like and subscribe to the video. We bring out so much content each and every week. We also have fantasy and tipping comps available this week. The link is in the description. Please make sure that you go and join all of those. I think there's about 1,000 people in the fantasy competition this year. Isn't that right, Long?
Man, just eclipsed 1,200.
Bang.
So, yeah, 1,200 people are going to be sitting beneath me on that table. I'm excited to see it.
We absolutely love that. Get into your tipping as well, guys. Round one tipping video coming out very soon from myself as well. Before we get into the list, who's up first?
First up is the Penrith Panthers. You want to throw us that question, mate?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And the biggest one for them is, what can't they do? No, I'm kidding. The biggest question
not be hateable. That's what they can't do for me. But
I think the biggest one for me is, can they win 4 in a row? And that is got to be the question on everyone's lips at this point in time. They just keep improving every single year, and they've really just turned this comp on its head in the last 5 years, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you lose some big players, right? It was Coruscant, Kikau a couple of years ago. This year it's Lenu, it's Crichton. Next year it's Luai. They just keep producing. So, yeah, I'm looking at them going, I hope they don't win 4 in a row. I am an unashamed hater of the Panthers. I respect what they do. I've got a actually signed jersey of the premiership last year in my house. But
you little...
I've got everyone. The Misso doesn't like decorations, but we persist. Yeah, look, next team I'm going to throw in here is the Parramatta Eels, this year's premiers. And the question is, are they G'd up for it? Because we've had seasons where, like 2022, where they were revved up, where they were pumping teams like the Panthers. And we had teams like seasons like last year where we look at them and, Dylan Brown's having off-field drama. There's injuries every second week. Teams just not revved up. They're losing games to teams they shouldn't be losing to. And, yeah, it has you worried.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be a good start from them this year as well. We saw last year that they never really recovered from a 1-5 start. So if they can get a couple of early games under their belt, I think it'll calm the rest of the camp, and then they can, move on and move forward and become that, premiership threat that they were 2 years ago. Next up, we have the Sydney Roosters, and for me, their biggest question to answer is, do they have a genuine 7 that is good enough for this star-studded team?
I mean, I look at them and sort of think, just put Joey Manu there. Like, how good is he? Not a genuine 7. Look, it's a tough one. You got Keary, you got Sam Walker, both fantastic halves, both 6s in my eyes. Do you see it the same way?
I think for me, I see it more as this could be their last opportunity. You've got a couple of guys leaving next year as well. An aging roster. We just found out that JWH, this is going to be his last year in the league as well. I think Suali'i moving on, and then Manu's probably going to move on as well. There are going to be a lot of changes to this team in the next 12 to 24 months. So it's really about now, this is the time that they can go and win that premiership. But it's definitely going to be a problem in that halves pairing for me. They're both 6s, as we've spoken about previously, and just no real game manager there.
Yeah, they need a lot from Brandon Smith. I'm going to jump to the next team here, the Brisbane Broncos, a team who, for all intents and purposes, won that grand final until they didn't.
Yeah.
Look, they come into this year, and the question is, can they rev up again the same way, and will complacency creep in? Because we saw Parramatta, after their loss to the Panthers in the grand final, come back next year, a little bit arrogant, took it for granted, thought they'd be back in the finals next year, completely missed out. So I'm a bit worried for the Broncos.
Yeah, definitely. Only the anomaly of the Penrith Panthers have managed to dominate this competition for the last 4 years, and they've been so super successful. With the Broncos, I do see it being a massive chip on the shoulder, or a lot of those young players could really take it to heart and think that maybe, we're not good enough. And then those demons can creep in. If they're up in a few games, then they can, take a look back at last year. Why they didn't win the grand final is they didn't put the effort in till the 80th minute.
That's a big call.
Well, they let someone take over the game, and that's something that you prepare all season for. It led right until those last 15 minutes, thinking that you have the game won when you don't.
I love you referring to Nathan Cleary as someone, as though he's like Voldemort.
We don't speak his name.
He shall not be named.
We don't say his name here on the channel. We just leave it there, and he is the man in black.
Now, mate, give me that question for the Cowboys. Your beloved North Queensland.
Yeah, I think for me, I wrote this one down, actually. If they don't perform this year, I think it's curtains for Todd Payten. Well, we'll put a little question mark there as to if they don't make the top 8 this year, I think Todd Payten is going to go. Just over the last couple of years, there's been a few things. He's pissed off a few of the players. He's also made a few really good changes in signing Tom Dearden and believing in him, and then also giving him the captaincy and making Cotter a big part of the forward pack as well. But there's just a couple of other things where I just think he's not making the most of our roster. There's a couple of young guys that I would love to see get a really good shot as well. I think Lukey gets a bit more game time this year as well, with Luciano moving on, which we only found out about recently. And it's about whether this forward pack can really match it with some of the best of them, because it is missing a few bigger names, as you would say. Yeah,
Luciano taking off is great news. Look, that was 700K of essentially dead cap when you got guys like Finafuyaki and Lukey there as well. Lukey, it's going to be a big year for him. That's going to be a real telling point. And we need to see Tamalolo and Cotter playing bigger minutes as well. So, yeah, the Cowboys are a bit sus. They're in my top 8, but not convincingly. Next team we're going to throw to is the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And look, we're about a week removed from Valentine's Day. Very timely, with a lot of flowers in people's living rooms wilting. Will the Rabbitohs wilt when the pressure's on in the finals? And will they wilt even before that? Because we look at last year. Last year they were number 1 after 10 rounds. They were premiership favourites after 10 rounds. Did not even make the finals. Basically didn't produce a good performance for the last 3 months of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be a case of them also trying to pick up their form towards the start of this year, because they have a lot of outs to start the first month of the season, with Jack Whiten not being there round 1 in Vegas. Also, Tyrone Munro, the guy who we probably thought was going to take that wing spot, he's not going to be there. They're going to have to shuffle that around. And then Campbell Graham is out until round 22.
Massive loss.
It's a mess right now in the outside backs for the Rabbitohs. I do not know who's going to suit up round 1.
Does it matter, though, when you got Latrell?
Well, it mattered to teams like Parramatta last year, who lost. I'm not sorry to bring it up again, but it matters to the teams who lost a couple of games earlier in the season. Yeah, we've seen the Rabbitohs, not last year, but in previous years, catch fire towards the finals. I think 2022 was actually the year where they surged into the finals. It looked like they could have actually made a good grand final run, having made the grand final in 2021 as well. But I just think with the Rabbitohs, it's going to be about bouncing back from what I assume will be a pretty poor start for them. For our next team that we're going to throw to is the Melbourne Storm. Now, do they have enough power in the forward pack up front?
Yeah, I mean, the truck's got a pretty small engine, doesn't it? Look, I think they'll be okay with Smith, Cronk, Slater. Pappenhausen, Munster, and Harry Grant. Look, they've got a formula. And they're playing it a bit light. I think some of the acquisitions they've made are a bit underrated. So the signing of Sean Bloor, if he gets a start, it allows Loiero to go to the middle, and it allows Nas to come up the bench and just be that explosive prop, the way he should be, with Josh King and hopefully Christian Welch starting for them. So I think they've got enough if they don't get struck with injuries too much. But if they have an injury-affected season, it's going to be tough for them to keep up.
Yeah, guys like Josh King and Tui Kamikamica have really come on in recent years too, and I think that especially Kamikamica for me, I just see him as almost the star forward of that forward pack at this point in time. I know we have big names like Nas and Welch, but Kamikamica is one of those guys who goes in and does his job. Not saying that he is the old Aiden Tolman, but he just goes in there, you know exactly what you're going to get from him. You're going to get about 25 plus tackles and 100 meters game. For me, he's a super solid dude as well. And then with Josh King, I think he had a bit of a down year, then bounced back last year as well, and kind of really imposing himself on the lock position, which is a heavily talked about position in our game. We've got some great players playing, and not saying he's at that level quite yet, but he is getting there for me. Next up, we do have the Cronulla Sharks. And for me, their biggest question is, are they finally going to become the contenders that a lot of other people think that they are, and a lot of other people think that they don't. They aren't.
Yeah. I mean, look, she's been leading us on. She's been sending fire reacts to our stories when we're out at the clubs.
Bitch.
Look, the Sharks, man. I don't know. They've given all the right indications. They've benefited from pretty easy fixtures in previous years,
and they will again this year.
They will again, but they really haven't stood up to top sides. And last year they were disastrous against top 8 teams. I don't see that changing. I've actually got the Sharks missing my top 8 completely, so I'm not going to justify it any more than that. If you're a Sharks fan, you're probably the only one.
Yeah, if you're a Sharks fan, don't go watch our ladder predictions video, guys, that you can go see.
I mean, you had
on
them.
the casual.
I
did. You know what? If you want them, just watch me the whole time. I was very positive on the Sharkies, but it is just because of their schedule this year. They do get to play the Dogs, the Dragons, and the Tigers twice each. So I think having those fixtures against potentially bottom 4 teams, and we had those 3 teams in the bottom 4, definitely helps. But for me, it's about Nico Hines regaining some confidence. You know, I think after last year's Origin, he kind of just dipped a little bit. He probably didn't show fantasy numbers or Supercoach numbers wise because he's still such a brilliant player. But I just didn't really see him, come out with the same energy, same same verve that he really wanted to take on prior to getting selected for Origin, and then he got completely embarrassed by Freddie, and he's owned up to that situation where he said, no, I blame myself a lot for it. I'm sorry, mate, but I'm going to give you a little bit of credit there. I'm going to blame a bit on Freddie for it because he didn't use you in the right way. So sorry about that, mate. Next team we do have on the list here is the Gold Coast Titans. Now, for you, Dan, is Des the coach to take them to the next level?
I was very, very hyped about this signing. Look, Des Hasler, he's the guy. He's coached a lot of fullbacks into ascendant seasons. I'm looking at them and thinking, all right, Jaden Campbell, that's a guy who can play. That's a guy who under Des Hasler is going to be an absolute freak. Obviously, he was a guy we're all looking at for fantasy. I now look at that and sort of go, all right, he's out till round 5. David Fafita's out till round 5. Bo Firma comes back, which is a plus. I think we're going to see what this team is made of in the first couple of weeks because they're missing a few strike weapons. They're going to have some combo challenges with AJ Brimson at center as well. That's my worry with them. If they can come out and they can produce good defensive performances in the first few games, then they'll slide right into my top 8. But as it is today, I'm just worried about these injuries. I do think Des Hasler's the guy for them, though. I'm going to throw you the next team here, and it's a team that we loved to watch last year. A team with the Fantasy MVP award as well, Sean Johnson. I think he won our Dally M too.
Yes, he did.
Our Dally M. The right Dally M. Can the New Zealand Warriors recapture the magic of 2023? That's the question on everyone's lips. And I don't know. I mean, I saw you put them outside of your top 8. So is your answer no?
I think them being between the 8 to 12 or even 6 to 12 is right. I think it might be a bit of a return to what we're used to seeing from the Warriors.
Ooh, hater.
I'm not a
hater.
Wow. The poor Warriors, they've been such horrible in the doldrums for years. I was glad to see them last year, but it's about recapturing the magic for me. And once you have an awesome season, it's really hard when no one expected it from you to do it again. I think the Cowboys proved that in 2022 when they shot up right to the top 4 as well. It reminded me last year of the Warriors, of that Cowboys team where no one expected them to do anything. And it's hard to do that. We saw that with the Cowboys last year. Teams started figuring them out a little bit. I think the Warriors' game plan doesn't really change too much either. And I think teams are going to figure them out a little bit more. They played very simple football. They played very fundamental football. It was kick returns, kick meters.
I'm going to cut you off here. Slander. All of this is slander.
It's not slander at all.
They have added 2 acronyms to the team. The RTS, the CHT. You've got AFB. You've got CNK.
CHT.
Chanel Harris DeVito.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to stop you. You stop me, I'll stop you when you're talking absolute nonsense.
Look, the Warriors...
The man fresh off a year out of the game.
He's a great reserve half.
And the bloke who's been playing rugby union for the last 4 years.
RTS looked damn good in that trial game. He looked damn good.
I thought you didn't care about trial games, with Para losing on the weekend.
It was before Para lost.
Oh,
I watched that one. But
right.
yeah, look,
Makes
RTS
sense.
is hot. I think they're a team who's easily in the finals. It's a great forward pack. It's got to be another good year for Sean Johnson. That's obviously the big question alongside what you're saying.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now, I'm going to throw another question at you for the Manly Sea Eagles, a team who dusted South Sydney's third grade side about 68-4, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, which
big matchup.
I know people saw that and they thought, well, Ben Trebojevic, yeah, got to get him in my fantasy side.
Well, you might.
Look,
might have to.
Let me give you the question here. And the question is Brooks the answer for the Manly Sea Eagles?
Like, he's Allen Iverson. Is that he's coming in there?
This is your question, mate.
Yeah,
all right. If Brooks is the answer.
You had to set me up with that one. Okay. No, Brooks is not Allen Iverson. But I do think that he adds a genuine star quality to a position that they lacked in last year. Brooks is one of those guys where he was half the reason that Tigers have been winning games for the last decade.
Games? Like plural?
Game. But I do think that he is just out of a toxic situation. Some people, when they go out of a big, long relationship, I think you and I have been through this.
Yeah.
When they get out of a long relationship, you've got two ways that you can go. You can either wallow in your own sadness and sit there and be like, why me? Why did we let go of everything? Or you can pick yourself up and dust yourself off and get back out there and meet another girl. And that's exactly what Brooks has gone and done. He's got his new woman, aka the Manly Sea Eagles, and he's got a new mistress in Anthony Seibold, and I think he's going to get the best out of him.
Yeah, I mean he's sticking to similar sort of suburbs, right? You go from Balmain to Manly. He's not stepping down in society
to the west,
where we are. Yeah. No, look, I think maybe we launch a relationship podcast on the back of this as well, because Brooksy, congratulations on leaving that.
We've got a caller on
ex.
line one.
Oh, mate, Manly. Yeah, look, they're not in my top 8, but they should improve this year. Now, I'm going to throw another question at you. The Newcastle Knights, and the question here is, can a hot run extend across off seasons? Because they're going to have to continue the rage in terms of what they were doing the second half of last year. Because the first half of last year, not pretty.
No. Next question.
No. God damn, man. What about Dylan Lucas?
Who?
Dylan.
I'm joking. Okay. I think
Pierce Paul.
Yeah, Kai Pierce Paul, exciting prospect. I did see him play a little bit. Can kick goals too. I love a goal kicking back row.
I got Fitzgibbon back there,
man. Yeah, no, it's good. I just think that in key positions they lack a little bit of star quality.
Not Jack Cogger, little Nathan Cleary Jr.
Sorry, no. Jack, well,
I think he's good. So you put him in at 7. It frees Hastings up to be a 6.
They're not going to do that.
I think they should.
They should, but they won't. They're going to stick with Gamble and Hastings because that's the Adam O'Brien way, who just got re-signed for another 3 years, by the way. I don't know if that was deserved, to tell you the truth.
Look, I'm a big Gamble fan. He's
I like him for team morale.
I think he's fantastic. He just brings the heat. Like if everyone played like Tyson Gamble, the league would be a better place. But I think in terms of team structure, and something against him, I think Cogger allows Hastings to be that dominant 6, that creative 6. And then that opens up Kalen Ponga out the back a lot, right? And you've just got that beastly edge back row pairing and fantastic centers. And the wing, it takes a reduction with no Dom Young, but it's still really good. So, yeah, I think the Knights could be an explosive roster. They're not in my top 8.
No, they're not in mine either. And, I think it's best that we just move on to the next team. Otherwise, I'm just going to explode on like guys like Phoenix Crossland and everything else like that.
Mate, the Phoenix is rising. Right, Canberra Raiders.
From the toilet, he's rising.
Oh, mate, he was good back end of last year. Look, let me give you the Raiders. Who plays number 6 for Canberra?
Ethan Strange for me. He's just got a bit of size on guys like KO Weeks, and then also he's played a lot of centre. So that leads me to believe he's going to be pretty solid defensively. I think we've seen even in the trials that KO Weeks still isn't really bringing that much to that Canberra team and either working off the back of the forward pack or even working with the outside backs. I think it's Ethan Strange who's the guy who's really taking over the game, and that was very interesting for me. I think Stewart gave them both equal opportunity and put them both in the halves together, and it looked like Ethan Strange just wanted it more.
There's talk that Fogarty had a hammy injury last week and still does because they've named the same halves pairing this week. So
I don't know if Strange is going to play halfback for the first however part of the
doubt
season.
that, but they don't have Sam Williams anymore either. So I mean, they're light. They might just have to do it. Look, I agree with you. Strange is as close to Jack Whiten as you can get in terms of this current rookie class of halves. He looked busy last game out. K Weeks, K Weeks has had big days and then he's had very quiet months. For me, in terms of his NRL career, obviously a lot of talent, so he could still step up. But I don't know. I'm leaning Strange. I just like the prototypical big number 6 for them. You know, he had Terry Campese back in the day as well.
Yeah.
It's good at Canberra. He got a big forward pack. He just barge over, mate.
They love a big 5'8". Laurie Daly was like that too.
Yeah.
Big running 5'8". So I think for Canberra, their best option is Strange at this point. If there's no injuries in the centres, obviously I think Strange can fit a number of positions. He can play anywhere in the back line pretty much, maybe except halfback. I don't know about the halfback position.
Seb Chris, he comes back round 2. You know, Schiller was really good in that trial.
He
as
was,
well.
yeah.
There's a few guys.
Zach Sini. How slow is Zach Sini?
Oh,
think.
He outrun us, but
well, he might. Yeah, he might get me. Just.
Oh, let me throw another question at you that isn't about your speed.
Fair enough.
Look, the Dolphins. I've been reminded constantly whenever I call them the Redcliffe Dolphins. There's this one guy that follows me around videos. And he just goes, "They're not Redcliffe.
He's really on you.
They're the Dolphins, mate." Anyway, the Dolphins. The question is, do they have the depth this year? Because they've added some big signings to that roster. Flegler is a very good prop. Herbie Farnworth is arguably the best center in the game. Do they have the depth? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think adding those two guys in positions where they were lacking last year as well. You know, I think we had Ewan Aitken playing mostly at center last year, and he kind of developed his game into being more of a second rower as well.
He's starting there this weekend over Lemuelu and Kenny Bromwich.
Well, that tells you a lot as well. And that adds depth to your second row, right? If you can find some replacements for your centers who were maybe makeshift centers, then you can. They also added Avarillo. I don't think we want to overlook Avarillo as well because he was a brilliant player for the Dogs last year, possibly their best player. And now he's moving into the centers as well. I think Hamiso has a lot more to work with now as well, and he won't maybe need to get as tired as he was last year. I think that's the only reason he wasn't playing fullback towards the end of last year as well. They were just trying to give him a bit of time out of that really hard-working, high meters position.
Yep. I mean, it's the first year doing it full time. It's hard, right? You look at Latrell's numbers the first year he played fullback, and they are completely different to what he's done the last 3 years. So it's a tough transition. Avarillo, he's on the bench behind Tessie New this week as well. So I look at that and sort of go, they've transitioned Tessie New to being a full time center. He's been really good in the trials against weaker opposition. Let's see if he can translate it this weekend.
Yep.
But yeah, they've got plenty of depth. So I think the answer to that question is yes.
Definitely.
Can they make the finals is the other question. Yeah. It's going to be harder. I'll throw a question at you for the Canterbury Bulldogs. The Canterbury Bulldogs.
Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs.
Here's the question. Does more signings equal more wins?
Depends on who the signings are.
Is more better? Utilities?
Some people would argue less is more.
Not Dogs.
No, not for the Dogs. I think the Dogs have made some good signings this year, but I also think they've made some ridiculous ones. It just seems like they're throwing money. You get a car, you get a car, you get a contract, you get a contract, you get a contract. It's weird to me. I don't exactly know if there's a strategy or they're just throwing darts at a board and seeing what sticks. I'm very interested to see where Stephen Crichton plays over the course of this year. Hopefully he can transition into a full-time fullback. At least I think that's what he wants to do. Hutchison in the halves for me. I know this is a big talking point for you, and we put out on our Instagram a little bit of a versus between him and Toby Sexton.
60% of people said Hutcho would start at half round one. Look, I disagree with a lot of the choices they've made for this trial team list. Trials don't necessarily mean that's where they're going to play, but I look at that and I go, all right, Hutchison over Sexton. I don't like that. We've got Taff at fullback and we have Crichton at center. That means that one of Carraz or Zeri will have to miss out at centre, or potentially Kraz goes to wing and we lose Blake Wilson.
Skelton or Wilson.
Skelton, yeah, but Wilson was great in the last trial game. So
yeah, he was.
We lose one of them. And then the most egregious selection I've ever seen. I'm happy to eat humble pie on this, by the way, if it turns out. But Jamin Salmon at lock, when you are already an undersized forward pack, is the most insane selection. Like, I'm looking at that every week and just thinking, like, are they playing Rugby League 2 from like 2006? And they're just going, oh, who's the fastest player? Let's chuck them in. Like, it's absolutely
Jamin
ridiculous.
Salmon known for his speed as well.
Absurd. Whereas Josh Curran, like, he's not the perfect player. He's still, he's still maturing in his game, right? But he's a fucking weapon. He is so good.
Yeah, got to get the WGD out there, mate. He's got it all.
The WGD,
the weak gutted dog.
The weak gutted dog. Yeah, look, I don't know. I just think it's insane. Then look, that's the dogs.
No, it is the dogs, and unfortunately, I feel like guys like Connor Tracy are going to miss out as well. I feel like he made a really weird decision going there.
Why did he go there and not Parramatta? Like, just come to Parramatta.
Not everyone can go to Parramatta.
I just need someone to come to Parramatta and play our outside backs. Because, like, Sean Russell.
They should go get the other bloke who's sitting there, KL Iro.
We don't need him anymore. We got Bailey Simonson, monster at centre, 165 metres a game. Bang.
So high on Bailey Simonson this year.
I think he's the guy. All right.
Anyway,
George,
next up, yeah.
Give me that question.
So next up for St. George is, what does Coach Flanagan bring them this year? Is he going to bring them to the promised land? Is he going to bring them further down into the doldrums? I happen to think the latter. What about you?
Well, he brought them a son. And family's more important than winning. Nothing's more important than family. Nothing's
winning's winning.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. Look, I wish I had Vin Diesel's voice. Instead, I've got this. No, look, Flano. Flano, it's going to take time, right? It's very rare that a coach can come. Look at the Detroit Lions in the NFL, right?
Dan Campbell.
Well, he came in. They won like 3 games his first year. It's taken them a bit of time, but they've gotten to that point where they're in the playoffs now. In fact, if you're a Dragons fan,
nearly made the Super Bowl.
Nearly made it. But for the Dragons, all you're thinking is, all right, I just want to be a team that's in contention for the top 8 with a month to go. And if you fade at that point and you finish 10th, 11th, 12th, you're looking at that and sort of going, all right, that's a step in the right direction. And then hopefully from there, you can sort of build up, because that's what all these bottom teams are going for, right? Like as a lifelong Parramatta supporter, I understand coming from the wooden spoon and getting into contention, then going back to the wooden spoon. But
you also understand breaking salary caps too. Like that's
don't hurt me anymore. Look, we're going to win the comp this year, so don't worry about it. I know. So look at the Dragons. I think he's the right coach long term. I think this year could be pretty rough with how good the teams above them are looking. Like the Titans get Dez. I love that. I've got them in that bottom 5.
Yeah, I do think that with new coaches, as you said, takes a bit of time, and you're given a bit of leeway too. Like if you're failing in your first year, I don't think anyone really expects instant results. But if they do happen, it's great. Like Andrew Webster last year for the Warriors produced instantly, and Serraldo didn't. It was, tale of 2 Penrith assistant coaches, right? But with Flanagan, he's got such a pedigree. He comes from winning the 2016 comp, but he hasn't really coached in a long time. And you wonder if maybe the game, he's been a commentator. He's been on record saying that he enjoys that quite a lot. He didn't want to go back to coaching. But I think with the Dragons moving just down the road from Cronulla, I think Cronulla might take that as a bit of a slight, to tell you the truth. We'll see what happens with them. I'm not exactly big on their roster, but good luck to St. George this year. But I think they're making the bottom 5.
Fair play. And now the last team on this list, we've got the mighty West Tigers. They're coming in from 2 wooden spoons in a row. It's been a tough time to be a Tigers fan. I know, because most of my family go for them, and I don't stop reminding them of these problems. But look, the question is youth a winning formula for the Tigers?
I think for the Tigers, it's just one of those things where they have to look at it and build from this year. They can't come into this season with finals expectations. They just can't. I don't see a world where they're going to be making the top 8. So if they just treat this year as like let's get a couple of wins, get more wins than we did last year, maybe target 7 or 8 wins. Like that's double than what they got last year almost. Then I think that's a successful season for them. They need another year, I would say, for like guys like Latu Fainu to develop, and then Jaden Sullivan. This is really his first real crack at a starting half spot. I just don't know if it's going to work with Aiden Caesar coming back, and he's on a 1-year contract as well. Benji's a first-time proper coach. It's just the more I talk about it, the worse it's getting, isn't it?
I mean,
it's just
Caesar's not the goal kicker, right?
Mhm.
So I sort of look at that and think, like, Caesar is an 85% goal kicker.
Mhm.
Coruscant's like a 66% goal kicker across his career.
So
So
Dewey when he comes back.
I mean, halfway through the year, right? But I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, if they're not making Caesar the goal kicker, they're planning for life after Caesar already,
Mm.
right? Which makes me think that Finu might get a run sooner rather than later.
Mm.
So
Why sign Caesar then?
as a mentor, as a guy you can plug in against Penrith, I wouldn't want to run Finu in that sort of game. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just think they're gonna treat this year as a bit of a learning year. We're going to see a lot about Benji's style as a coach. Are they going to be a team where they're sort of setting metrics in terms of let's keep teams below a certain score each week, or is it going to be loose footy? Is it going to be offload? It's going to be attacking style? It's going to be a team that we want to watch every week.
Mm.
I hope for the latter, but I expect the former from them. But yeah, I know. The answer for me is yes. It is the correct answer for them. You get Luai next year as well,
Yeah.
which makes a crowded.
It seems like a
halves room.
waiting year. Like they're just waiting around.
I mean, give these guys a chance, right? Talon De Silva. I want to see him playing more first grade this year as well, coming off the bench. Like, I like what the Tigers are doing. Dream Buller is an absolute freak. Yeah, they're building in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely.
And I hope we see more of that manifesting because they don't deserve the hate they get.
No, not at all. Anyway, guys, that is it for this week's video. What did you think about our questions down in the comments section below? Please let us know. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week, and we'll catch you on the next one, right, Longy?
Peace out, guys.